Greetings, explorers, and welcome back to Movie Safari. Instead of doing another movie like Finding Nemo or Jumanji that features a lot of different animals, I've decided to instead do a movie that focuses on just one animal. And what better animal to do than one of my favorite animals, crocodiles. This is Lake Placid. Directed by Steve Miner and produced by 20th Century Fox, 1999's Lake Placid is a creature feature horror movie that tells the story of a paleontologist, a game warden, a local sheriff, and a mythology professor who investigate rumors of a massive killer crocodile in a lake in Maine. Surprisingly short, the film is a fun little B-movie with a kinda contrived story, but excellently written snarky banter. However, here on Movie Safari, we don't talk about writing or cinematography or any kind of, things I might use a film degree for. Here, we look at the animals. For many people, movies and TVs are vitally important in how we form our views and opinions about the world around us, so they have a huge influence on how we think the world works. This of course applies to animals, especially animals that are poorly misunderstood. Jaws famously springboarded the humble shark from a mysterious animal to an infamous killer and sparked an entire culture of fear and hatred, leading to the deaths of thousands of sharks. So today we look at Lake Placid and talk about crocodiles, probably one of my favorite animals of all time, and we talk about how these animals work in the real world compared to their film counterparts. As always, if you like what you see, you like my videos, feel free to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell icon to get notified every time I upload. Put some comments down below, tell me what movies you want to see next, what you thought of this one, any corrections you think I might need to make. Get viewer engagement going. I really want to grow this channel. I really want to be able to make more of these videos, so please show me the love down below. Let's dive in. Now, crocodiles famously hunt on the edge of the water. They're well known for ambushing animals coming down to drink, and this is undoubtedly the hunting style they prefer and their bodies are adapted for. However, all species of crocodile will also eagerly take fish and other aquatic prey if they can, so they're more than adept at hunting underwater. Because of this, it can be incredibly dangerous to go diving with large crocodiles. Some species may be safer than others because they might have a more mild temperament, but with any species, it can very easily turn dangerous and even deadly, which I suspect this scene will. So this scene is meant to replicate the effect of Jaws, where you don't see the monster as it attacks the person. You only see the person flailing about at the surface of the water before getting pulled in. This way, there's an element of mystery as to what the creature is and what it looks like, and that builds up the suspense and the fear inside your mind. However, in the real world, it wouldn't really go down this way. For one, it is very likely there would be more thrashing at the surface as the croc rips the guy apart. This guy is ripped in half. Crocodiles don't have cutting or shearing teeth like you might see in a shark. Crocodiles' teeth are conical, not edged. What these teeth do is hold the prey. So that way they use the thrashing and the force of them shaking their head and rolling and spinning to tear and rip at their prey. But most importantly, crocodiles cannot swallow or eat underwater. They have a flap in the back of their throats that closes off whenever they enter the water. That way they can open their mouths and attack without swallowing water or even inhaling it. Now, this also prevents them from swallowing, meaning that all crocodiles have to lift their heads out of the water and toss back their food in order to swallow it. So, obviously the sheriff would have seen the crocodile attacking this guy, and there wouldn't be any kind of mystery as to what this animal is.
Any recent bear attacks?
This was no bear. Bears don't attack people underwater.
I mean, bears don't attack underwater, so I guess that's a fair assessment.
There was an accident in Maine. Some guy got killed by something in a lake, probably a bear, but they found a tooth.
A tooth?
A fragment of a tooth. One they say couldn't have come from any bear. Evidently it looks prehistoric. I want you to go there.
What?
Why the hell would you call a paleontologist? Do they think this guy was attacked by a dinosaur? The American Museum of Natural History in New York has entire departments full of biologists and zoologists who specialize in living animals, especially their anatomy. Why would you call a paleontologist because this shard of a tooth looks prehistoric to a non-expert. Unless they think this was a Tyrannosaurus swimming around in a lake in Maine, why wouldn't they just call a zoologist? Like, it changes no part of this movie.
This is reptilian, and this is not a fossil.
How on earth can they rule out anything from this fragment? Obviously, a trained scientist with expertise in osteology and dental anatomy might be able to tell the difference, like Kelly here probably could, but a sheriff or a game warden definitely could not rule out a bear tooth just from this one fragment. I mean, bear teeth and large crocodile teeth, to a layman, don't look too different. They're both long, conical, and pointy. I don't see how they can make any kind of assessment or rule anything out just on this one small fragment of tooth. That being said, it is very possible and very accurate that a crocodile would lose a tooth during the attack. Crocodiles continuously lose and regrow their teeth throughout their lives. So whenever a tooth is just old or gets damaged, it'll just fall out and then a brand new tooth will regrow. I feel like I'm going to use this skull throughout a lot of this video, so just keep it handy right there.
Tents are sent ahead. Should already be set up by the time we get there.
So I get that this lake is secluded in a place where very few people go. But if they spent any amount of time on this lake, they would almost certainly spot the crocodile. Crocodiles regularly come up to the surface to breathe air, and they also will get out of the water to bask and sunbathe in order to warm their body and get their metabolism up. This is Maine, a cold climate. This crocodile would definitely be spending as much time as he can in the sun bathing. Worst comes to worst, they could also just go out at night and use a spotlight to spot the eye shine reflecting back in the crocodile's eyes. Crocodiles have very reflective eye shine, and using a spotlight is actually a very effective way to spot them in the wild, something that actual experts really use. So a large bull saltwater crocodile will target an animal like a water buffalo as prey, so a moose is not out of the question.
Why are you here, really?
I had that same question myself.
There's no way a crocodile can be in Maine, right?
Let's see what the film has to say about that. And let's see what I have to say about that.
They've been migrating north, This lake does connect to the ocean. It's not as far-fetched as it may sound.
Even if that were true, which I can't find any research to support that, there's a big difference between a crocodile being found 30 miles outside of its normal range and being found several continents, several oceans away.
Crocodiles can't swim in salt water.
Yeah, well, that'll be your little secret.
Okay, yes, so this is true. Some crocodile species can and often do live in brackish water and can even venture out into the ocean. They have special glands in their body that help them process and excrete the extra salt. Now this allows them to cross shallow seas and venture out to other nearby islands. This is most commonly seen with the American crocodiles, Crocodilus acutus, in the Caribbean, and the saltwater crocodile, Crocodilus porosus, in Southeast Asia and Australia.
How could it survive winter?
As long as their nostrils don't freeze, they survive.
So this is based in fact, but there's a huge asterisk next to it. Alligators can survive freezing temperatures for a short period of time. They stick their nose out of the water, so that way when the surface of the water freezes, their noses are stuck in place. Their nostrils are above the surface of the water in the air, allowing them to basically have a snorkel to breathe through while they wait for the temperatures to rise up and the ice to melt. However, this only allows them to survive for short periods of time, not months of below freezing conditions. American alligators don't live outside of the deep south, where winters are short and relatively mild. Living somewhere like Maine, or even a state like New York or Ohio, would definitely be too cold for them to survive in any capacity. And what's more, these are alligators, not crocodiles. They look similar, but crocodiles and alligators are not the same animal. Crocodiles and alligators branched off from each other over 100 million years ago. That's before the dinosaurs died out. Crocodiles and alligators are more distantly related than humans are to hippos. Crocodiles are significantly less cold tolerant than alligators, meaning they really cannot survive very well outside of the tropics or even semi-tropics. The only place in the U.S. where you can find crocodiles is a very southern tip of Florida in the Everglades, which is where you get just the most northernmost population of American crocodiles.
He paid us 500.
It's a trap. What's with digging the holes?
Well, crocodiles are very brazen. They like to come on land, and of course they're attracted to noise.
Everybody out, back to your tents.
A pit trap could work to catch a crocodilian, but it's not really the best way to go about doing it. A pit trap would have to be well away from the edge of the water, because you need a lot of dry soil to dig a deep pit without it hitting water or getting muddy or collapsing in on itself. The problem is, crocodiles don't venture far enough away from the water often enough to really make it a reliable trap at all. Now, there are traps specifically designed to catch crocodiles, and all of them are placed in or around the water's edge, which is where crocodiles frequent most often. There's floating metal cages, nets, even snare traps. All of these are proven and reliable capture methods for catching crocodiles alive. These are what the experts use.
In his defense, every primitive culture known to man deified them. Ancient China, Egypt, Australia, Asia.
So every primitive culture did not deify crocodiles, simply because not every primitive culture lived in areas where crocodiles lived. The Navajo, the Inuit, Shinto Japan, the Norse, all of these people lived in areas where crocodiles just didn't live, so they never encountered them, so they didn't even know that they existed. Okay, but breaking down the ones he actually listed, Egypt 100% did deify the crocodile. The god Sobek was the god of the Nile River, and he had the head of a Nile crocodile. Crocodiles were considered sacred to him, and were often kept in the temples to Sobek, cared for by the priests. China possibly did. It is believed by some that one of the many influences of the Chinese dragon, or lung, was the Chinese alligator. Not a crocodile, but an alligator nonetheless. Australia, I mean, kind of? Crocodiles don't feature prominently in most Aboriginal creation myths, nor are they featured in much ancient art, but there are some select myths and legends featuring them. They range anywhere from being banished for becoming too big and violent, to being the mythic ancestor to and symbol of the Larakia people. And Asia, well, Asia's a continent, not a culture. You can't just throw a blanket term over the largest continent on Earth.
We can expect a quick response if he hears that. Adult crocs will move on distressed hatchlings.
So adult crocodiles will often come to the sound of hatchlings. Crocodilians are the most parental of all reptiles, and will often aggressively defend their young from predators.
The thing is, they don't really attack underwater.
That wall guy got hit underwater.
True, they don't see that well underwater. You see, they have these nictating lenses over there.
Like I said earlier, crocodiles can hunt underwater. They can also see, hear, and sense their way perfectly fine. Their snouts and faces are covered in tiny little holes, tiny little bumps, which are basically pressure sensors, which allow them to detect and sense any movement or vibrations in the water around them, so they can find their way and find food without a hitch.
What was that?
I don't know.
Okay, this is just another rip-off of Jaws, because why the hell would a crocodile grab an anchor and just tow a boat? The anchor isn't baited, it's not a fishing line. The croc would have no reason to just grab a random hunk of metal and just start yanking on it. They just added this in to give a little extra scene of action and suspense in what is otherwise an uneventful part of the movie. Okay, so crocodilians can actually leap vertically up out of the water to snatch overhanging prey. They use this to catch birds, bats, monkeys, any kind of animal that's in a branch hanging over the water. So never lean over the side of a boat whenever you're in crocodilian territory.
He's an Indo-Pacific. Scales were oval. He's an Asian crocodile.
So yes, one trait that saltwater or estuarine, Indo-Pacific, whatever common name you want, saltwater crocodiles have is oval-shaped scales. However, I have no clue how you would have seen that or get a good enough look at the crocodile to pick that out during the middle of that very brief, very violent encounter. There are a lot of better methods to ID this crocodile. The robust body, the huge broad head, the ridge in front of the eyes, the color, just the sheer size. No other crocodile gets near as big as a saltwater crocodile. A million different ways you can just tell a saltwater crocodile on sight.
Why would he come here? I mean, it's impossible. Asia. How would he get here? I never heard of a crocodile crossing an ocean.
Well, they conceal information like that in books.
Okay, so this scene is where things get nuts. Crocodiles do not cross entire oceans. So crossing tropical seas is one thing, but in order to get to Maine, not counting just walking across any continents, this crocodile would have to either swim across the entire Pacific Ocean, the largest and deepest ocean in the entire world, round the southern tip of South America, crossing into the Southern Ocean, the coldest and most dangerous and roughest ocean in the world, and then swim the entire length of the Atlantic Ocean, south to north, then get in a river and go up to Maine. Or he could just cross the Indian Ocean, not as big as the Pacific, but no small feat, round the southern cape of South Africa, again going into the Southern Ocean, cold, rough, dangerous, not at all habitable for a crocodile, then go all the way up the Atlantic Ocean, south to north, enter a river, and go to Maine. Either way, that is an insane voyage across multiple oceans, crossing hemispheres, all while not having any food, shelter, incredibly cold water, nowhere to rest, all that just to end up in Maine, a place where a crocodile really wouldn't be able to survive at all.
So you're the big expert. You think ours is some kind of mutant, or...?
Not necessarily. Biggest one ever killed on record was 27 feet.
So the idea that saltwater crocodiles get 27 feet long is something that's very common in literature, but actually comes from dubious reports of very unreliable measurements from decades ago, almost a century ago. However, scientific analysis of the largest specimens, both living and dead, and analysis of genetics and bone structure have consistently topped out around 23 feet, which 23, 27 doesn't sound like a huge leap, but with crocodiles, 4 feet is a lot. While 23 feet is the estimated maximum, it's almost unheard of nowadays. Decades of hunting and targeting large individuals have essentially wiped out the giant crocodiles. While it may take decades for them to grow back, it's very possible these large giants have essentially been removed from the gene pool and we won't see them again. Today you'd be lucky to find a crocodile 17 feet. But could a crocodile reach 30 feet naturally? In the past, we've assumed crocodiles had what's called indeterminate growth, meaning they continue growing throughout their lives, hypothetically growing to giant sizes if they just live long enough. However, recent genetic and skeletal research has shown that crocodiles do in fact have a natural maximum length. Now, that maximum size can vary from individual to individual and is affected by genetics as well as health and nutrition. It does seem like the real maximum size for saltwater crocodiles is 23 feet. The largest crocodile reliably measured and the largest one ever kept in captivity were both a little over 20 feet. 20 feet and 23 feet are well below 27 feet and well below 30 feet. So it's pretty much a guarantee that a crocodile could never grow as big as the one you see in this movie. Like, at least sci-fi channel movies, like, have some kind of, BS comic book logic of, like, oh, radiation or scientific experiments or toxic waste contamination, some kind of made-up sci-fi logic. This is just literally saying a crocodile could grow that big, and it can't.
What is she doing?
What?
Come and get it!
Okay, so this actually does speak to a real-world issue. Most crocodilian species, aside from a few of the larger ones, actually don't see humans as prey and show remarkably less aggression towards them, meaning attacks on humans are much lower in comparison. Most crocodilians are quite shy and will avoid humans if at all possible. However, the number one way to get a crocodile to turn aggressive to humans is to feed it. Almost all attacks from the American alligator are either defensive or come from an animal that's been fed. They learn to associate humans with food, so when they see humans in their territory, it provokes a feeding response. So this crocodile has been regularly fed by Betty White here, so now it's become emboldened and has lost any kind of fear of humans and sees them as a source of food. This is why you should never ever feed a wild crocodilian, or any wild animal for that matter.
Florida Fish and Game, what'll they do when they get here?
Tell her, Jack. Won't be able to snag him in pitments, right? And you trank him in the water and he drowns.
Well, they could try to trank him on land.
Oh, sure they could, but they won't. He's taking human life. The mission will be to put him down.
Right, okay, so this guy definitely is a freak of nature. And while capturing him would be insanely difficult, I would argue it's definitely worth it. However, the problem here is that the crocodile's taken human life. Almost every time a crocodilian has taken human life in the US, and very often in other parts of the world, that animal is hunted down and killed. It's terrible, disgusting, and barbaric, and fueled entirely by just human vengeance and not any kind of scientific reasoning, but that's very likely the outcome that would come with this crocodile. None of these people are equipped to capture this animal alive, so U.S. Fish and Game, which has shown repeatedly throughout history that they are very unsympathetic to reptiles, would very likely just kill the animal.
I got enough flaxseed with me to put him out, and I think I know a way.
Forget it.
Jack,
Forget it.
hear me out. Don't you think we're dealing with a bit of a miracle?
Yeah. Miracle would be to take him alive.
Yeah, but if we could neutralize him,
Oh, how are we going to neutralize
lure
him?
him on land and you pump him full of drugs.
So drugs can be very tricky when used on a crocodile because of the way their body metabolizes them and all the stress and exertion that their bodies put under during the course of capture. Most experienced crocodile trappers prefer not to use them and instead opt for traps and physical restraints. The Queensland Department of Environmental Science recommends not using drugs on large crocodiles over 3 meters, which, yeah, I think this guy qualifies. It's not impossible to safely tranquilize a large crocodile, but you have to be very careful about the dosage and which specific drug you use, and should be done by a trained and experienced professional, which I don't think anyone in this movie would count as that.
I got the drugs. He's got a big cannon if anything goes wrong.
How do we get him to the net? Ask Mrs. Bickerman to call?
I'll show you!
Go ahead!
You can't take a cow by eminent domain!
We just did!
I would just like to put it out there that trapping is still an option for this crocodile. Snares, nets, steel cages, all proven and effective methods of catching crocodiles, even very large ones.
Hold on. I got something on the screen.
What do you got? He's coming.
So this whole scene takes place in one evening. The same evening of the same day where we literally just saw this crocodile eat a whole cow. There's no way this crocodile would still be hungry enough to be remotely interested in this cow dangling from a helicopter. Large meals like bovine usually leave crocodiles satisfied for days, weeks, even a month or two. Now, crocodiles can move surprisingly fast on land for short distances. However, they don't hunt on land. They certainly don't chase on land. Occasionally, they may give a defensive charge, or they may flee very fast, but they know they have low stamina. They know they have short legs. They won't even bother to give chase to prey on land because they know it won't go well for them.
Swim! Swim to me! Swim to me, Kelly!
Yeah, now crocodiles are very fast swimmers. They can swim at speeds of up to 18 miles an hour. That's 3 times faster than even Michael Phelps, so yeah, this guy would definitely outswim her.
The tracks are kicking in.
Now, normally drugs do take a few minutes to take full effect, but the amount of stress this crocodile's been under from struggling so much, it likely would take effect a little sooner. Of course, that just means the situation is much more dangerous to the crocodile.
Are there 2? I think there's 2. He bit me. There's 2. There's 2.
I can count.
Okay, so you remember that long rant I had a little bit ago about how astronomically improbable it would be that this crocodile would make it all the way to Maine and grow to this size. Now I want you to take those very, very small, infinitesimal odds and run them through the machine a second time for a second crocodile. Clearly RNGesus fell asleep at the wheel at this one, because this is so improbable it's pretty much impossible. Speaking of this second croc, spoiler alert, we do see hatchlings at the end of this movie, meaning that this was a mating pair of a male and a female. However, this crocodile seems to be as equally huge as the first one. Now this causes some problems. Saltwater crocodiles have the largest size difference from male to female of any living crocodilian. Males get 4 to 5 times bigger than the females. So if it's impossible for the male to get this big, it's even more impossible for the female to get anywhere close to this big.
Cute little buttons. Oh, Mommy loves you. Come on, get your supper. Nibble Mommy's toes. Yeah.
There we go, kids. The moral of the story is crocodiles. Okay, well, that was Lake Placid. It's short, it's dumb, it's very inaccurate, but it's still a fun time. I do really applaud it for preaching that this crocodile is to be saved, and having the crocodile be captured alive and preserved, despite the fact that he's killed at least 30 people. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I really want to keep making both Movie Safari and Voinis Ventures. Click up here to see a playlist of my actual documentaries where I've gone into the wild and seen crocodiles and alligators in person and in the wild. Comment down below your thoughts on this video. If there's something you didn't know or surprised to find out, if there's something you think I missed, if there's something that you think I didn't get right. I should hope there isn't any of that, but you know, you never know. Also, let me know if you want to see more of this series and what movie I should do next. There's a lot of movies out there with a lot of horribly inaccurate portrayals of animals. You guys stay safe out there, don't feed the crocodiles, and as always, stay incredible.